Now, CEO Cowrie Assets Management Johnson Chukwu joins me via Skype to look at this economic implication of this huge loss and how it affects the everyday Nigerian. Good to have you join us, Johnson. Now, crude oil and refined products worth $41.9 billion stolen from Nigeria in the last 10 years. What do you make of this report, and how do we address this revenue leakage?
Thank you. My feeling there, when I got those figures, I got frightened. Frightened because the truth is that if you look at the implication of what we can do with $4.2 million annually, amounted to about $42 billion in the last 10 years, and the fact that we have so much paucity of revenue for the government side, and then we're having such a level of leakage. If you look at, for instance, our crude oil earnings in 2018, total national crude oil earnings at the federal level, total earnings from crude oil in Nigeria was only $18.12 billion. So if you are saying about $4.2 billion was lost, in effect that we have actually lost about 20% of what we would have earned, assuming those leakages did not occur. The implication, which was also highlighted in the report, is that, for instance, the annual leakage is found that could have funded about 100% or increase the capital expenditure for 2020 by 100%, or funded that 20 months of losses could have funded the entire budget deficit, and 15 months of losses could have funded the entire borrowing budgeted in 2020 budget. So it then means that if only we can save that or stop those leakages, we don't need to continue to borrow. And you can imagine the impact of doubling our capital expenditure budget and actually having the resources to build those infrastructure. So the implications are monumental if those losses are real.
Okay, now Johnson also urges the federal government to embrace what it calls all fingerprinting technology, comprehensive metering of all facilities and other creative strategies to combat the growing menace of this theft. Now, how do we strategically deploy these strategies?
Interestingly, we've seen technologies have actually assisted to address some of those issues. Like when they talk about the fingerprinting technology, I can recommend to you what has happened in recent past. Some 10 years ago, there was what was called blood diamond, where diamond was fueling wars in places like Liberia, in places like Sierra Leone, and the world diamond community came together and said, look, we have to do a fingerprint of the diamond, and so that we know where diamonds are coming from. And you can't come to the market and sell diamonds that you are not the one that actually manufactured it, or not necessarily manufactured, that actually extracted it. So any diamond extracted by any company will have the fingerprint of that company. And the same thing can actually be adopted in the oil and gas industry. When this crude is extracted from our crude pipelines or illegally extracted from oil wells, how do they get to the international community? Are we tracking the records of all the crude being exported from the country? Are we labeling the record crude exported from the country so that any crude that is not labeled cannot find market in the international community, international crude market? Beyond that, you have to talk of the issue of use of drones. We can actually use drones to monitor our pipelines and crude oil facilities so that when they are in a free zone, when they are compromised, we can actually have it tracked and get the security agencies to respond timely. There are a lot of things that technology can do for us today, but I do not think we are fully deploying that. Instead, we are giving out contracts to manage or maintain the crude or protect the crude oil pipeline to those who are involved in stealing them. What we need to do is find other jobs for those people, get them gainfully employed, and then get the technology to assist us. If they want to join the military or join the police, they can join the police and military, so they're part of the formal security agencies, but not to have Hydra security agencies that end up incentivizing and they are only succeed in causing additional chaos.
Well noted. Now, paying priority attention to curb oil theft in the country's oil and gas industry has become both necessary and urgent to expand our revenue generation, as you've highlighted. But wouldn't you say now, in ignoring this, that's on the part of government now, this has a long way of affecting our diversification agenda, because we have to earn big from oil and gas to be able to support other sectors, isn't it?
Well, to some extent, the diversification is going to be a multi-dimensional initiative for the government. One is to support or encourage those sectors that have the capacity to provide us competitive advantage in the market. Agriculture sector is one of the areas the government has been focusing on. But most importantly, we need to focus a lot on improving the quality of our human capital. Because today the world has moved from what the former governor of Anambra State called the baggage economy to a knowledge economy. We need to really leverage on what should be our core competence or area of competitive advantage, which is the quality and the competence of our people. That means we have to look at our educational curriculum and develop the competencies that our Nigerian students can write programs that will find anywhere in the world. But that's one aspect of it. The other aspect that has to do with diversification is that we have to look at the sectors, physical sectors. I mean, when I talk of physical sectors, I'm talking of the real sector of the economy, where like we have done in the cement industry, that we try to do in the sugar industry, we try to do in the cassava industry. We need to go back and see how we can really create and grow these industrial sectors where we have the basic input materials locally. And while oil and gas earnings will help us build infrastructure, I do not even think that even if you save those losses, that you have the capacity to build infrastructure we need to build. I have always advocated that the government should look at bringing in private capital in the infrastructure development. We don't need to have a revenue profile that will support the quick build-up of infrastructure for a 200 million population and for a country of our size. So the oil savings from oil losses will no doubt improve on the government revenue, but will not be sufficient to address the shortfalls we have in terms of infrastructure that will support, that is necessary to support the diversification of the economy.
Okay, now let's talk about working with big data. While figures from government put the loss so far between 150,000 to 250,000 barrels per day, data from private studies estimate the figure to be between 200 and 400,000 barrels per day. How integral is synchronized data to addressing this situation now?
You didn't add the other data, which also from the Nigerian Extractive Industry Transparency Initiative, which actually say that the loss is about 138,000 barrels per day, which is about 7% of our 2 million average crude production. So you actually have three sets of data. Government agencies, 150 to 200,000 barrels. Private sector operators saying 200 to 400,000 barrels a day. The key thing is this. The private sector figures may most likely be closer to the accurate figures, because if you actually get figures from the operators in that industry who are looking at the shutting wells that they cannot produce because the pipeline for the evacuation of that, their crude production have been breached, that may not have been factored into the figures that we are announced by the government or that the government has. If you look at what has happened, you have crude oil wells scattered in the Niger Delta. Some of those wells are not very close to the export terminals, so they need to ride on the crude pipelines of the oil majors. And if the crude pipeline is breached, they will stop production because they can't produce, particularly if they don't have the capacity to evacuate by batch. So the shortings are considered as losses. So if you factor in all these losses, you have the losses that are stolen from the pipelines that are breached. Then you have the losses that are stolen from the refined petroleum product that regularly, which is also part of what the $1.8 million they mentioned in the report. So if you sum up this, you are likely going to be closer to the figures that private sector operators are publishing, because they are actually looking at, they are the ones who are wearing the shoes and they are the ones who the shoes are pinching. They know what they're shorting and they know what they lose on the crude pipeline. When you pump into the pipeline at the end of the export terminal, what you get is below what you have pumped in. So that is loss along the pipeline. If you take out just of pipeline losses, then the rest must be what is lost as a result of the breach of the pipeline.
Now, reducing the cost of production and exploration of oil fields, revamping refineries has also been a burning issue. Do you think we can take any strategic steps, aggressive steps, in the short term, say the first quarter of 2020? Because so far we've seen a little bit of stall in movement so far.
Well, I think the first thing is that we must maintain the peace in the Niger Delta. That's a short-term measure, both short and long-term measure, because if you don't maintain that peace, in Niger Delta, you're not going to continue to even produce the level you are producing. But beyond that, if you talk of the cost of crude production locally, which several people have been binding around, a number of factors have come into play. If we reduce the level of insecurity in that region, the cost of evacuating crude will reduce because the crude evacuation will likely go through the pipeline. The cost of evacuating crude with batch is quite exorbitant. So when you add that, you find that the cost of production of crude in those shallow offshore wells is quite exorbitant. Then you have to look at what is the cost, input cost that come from the oil majors that are approved by the DPR in terms of crude production. We need to make sure that those figures are comparative to the figures that are produced, used to produce crude elsewhere in the world. It seems there have been rumors and there have been small side talks that some of these figures are padded, and the oil majors take out their profit from the input cost. So we need to look at all those things. I think there has to be a higher level of rigor in reviewing the cost of production of crude by the oil majors.
Okay, now before I let you go, Johnson, now how does the drop in global oil demand also affect us, and how do we cushion the impacts come 2024 and 2040 as highlighted by OPEC? We just had the recent report of the decline in global oil demand. That's talking about the outlook from OPEC.
Yeah, for me, that's actually going to be a major challenge for the policymaker. And what I mean by this is that today we have not developed a substitute, substitute to crude oil production, to crude oil export. So we need to leverage on whatever we have today. We need to build back our reserve. Then we also need to fund our sovereign investment authority, Nigerian Sovereign Investment Authority, so that they can begin to expand the investment of the excess crude. So that at lean periods, we actually have in their investment scheme, we actually have what they call, you have three funds. You have the Next Generation Fund, you have the Stabilization Fund. The Stabilization Fund is supposed to be assessed at periods of low crude prices so as to stabilize the earnings or the revenue going to the 3 tiers of government. Unfortunately, I'm now aware that a lot of capital, a lot of funds have been moved to the Sovereign Investment Authority. It is now that we have crude price about $62, $63 per barrel that we need to fund and build a reserve available to the Sovereign Investment Authority so that we'll have enough in the Stabilization Fund that will meet the short-term needs when crude prices trend southward.
Thank you very much for your contribution. It's been a pleasure speaking with you, Johnson Chukwu. We've been speaking with the CEO of Cowrie Asset Management Limited. Now it's time